Yo, what is up? This is Rockstar Gaming. So honestly, I've had an account for a while, but haven't really recorded many videos. But I feel like I'm on the cutting edge of some crazy tech in this game, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. So, without further ado, I want to talk about some of the crazy tech I've been finding, just kind of labbing stuff out. For starters, I'm not going to go in order of how I discovered it, but this is the most recent thing I just found out. So I'm sure if you've gone through the what's it called, the whole kind of super training tutorial showing you all the thousands, seemingly thousands of mechanics in the game, then you'd probably have an idea of like some of the stuff that's available. So Guard Clash, as we know, if you don't already know, the way it works is if you charge an attack normally and someone's just guarding it neutrally, like without holding up or down, they will just get knocked back. And in the same sense, if you hold left or right when you do it, it also counts as a neutral input, even though you're intending to like knock them left or right. So the way guard clashing works is if someone's not guarding up, we gotta reset that. If someone's not guarding in the right direction, so if I hold charge and then hold up, it'll break them, and if I charge and hold down, it'll break them if they're holding the opposite direction. So to block up, you guard up. To block down, you guard down. One thing I just found out that is really busted in training is if you notice Piccolo's key bar, his gauge, every time I hit him with a successful guard clash, he loses a bar of key. Okay, so not a big deal, right? And then the key's immediately restoring. But check this out. If I break him and actually deplete his key the whole way, then he actually goes into the same down state that happens if you use too much key in some kind of clash. So right now, Piccolo literally can do zero inputs no matter what I do. This is busted, and it's not just for like one combo and then it resets. I don't know if they'll patch this later, but check this out. So I'll do it again. And then after I break him, I can literally just mollywop him with crazy combos. Like knock him to the ground, pick him up off the ground. And this whole time, if you see his key still slowly recovering, I can do like the ground grab. Oh, he got it too soon. That was a crazy amount of damage. I wasn't really paying attention, but I think that was like a bar and a half, 2 bars, with me not having like, a focused combo because I'm talking. All that being said, that is a dummy nuts mechanic, and I think once people start to really figure out how to do really good, like, close range melee fighting, as people are already starting to figure it out, it's getting crazy out here. Literally feels like we're playing the show. Yeah, so there's a lot of tech that's gonna be kind of coming to mind or coming to fruition as time passes. Literally, the game technically drops in like 15 minutes, but I had the pre-order, so I've been playing for the last like 3.5 days. Another crazy tech that I've been finding, and I still have yet to like properly test this fully in an online match, but you can basically infinite dodge. What do I mean by this? So when you're in this close range, currently I'm in far range now, see how quickly I'm moving. I have a lot of mobility. There's a lot of movement tech that like some of it's really cool and you look fast and you dodge a lot of stuff, but it uses key. Other stuff is just like kind of normal, like just holding R1 or L1 on PlayStation standard. As you can see, I'm just kind of moving around. This infinite dodge trick though. So now when I get into the close range and I'm moving slow, this is where you can start doing the steps, right? So I'm stepping around, moving around. That's all cool and all, right? Notice the blur that you see when the character is moving in a direction. That blur actually indicates iframes. If you don't know what iframes are, it is invincibility frames. So as I do this, I'm getting iframes. So if someone starts to swing at me with a rush chain, I will just not get hit at all. And usually, if I'm going left or right, or even sometimes forward and back, you'll you'll miss the first two hits of their rush attack, and then the rest will just miss because they're direct, like punching in a direction. Because once you start a rush combo, you'll never change directions as the attacker. So, all that being said, check this out. If you didn't already know, in the middle of the step animation, if you press your block, so for standard on PlayStation, it's R1. If you press your block, then you will do a little weave move, right? This weave move actually resets your iframes. So I'm just gonna like make an estimation. I don't know, but let's say this one move right here is like 30 frames or maybe 40 frames. By tapping R1, I now have turned that 40 frames into like another 30. It like doubles the frame advantage. Now what's crazy about that is now 30 frames is a 30th of a second. Well, not 30. I don't know the math. That's half a second. Another 30 frames is a whole second. So not only do I have a whole second of invincibility, but I just found out that if I am in the middle of my little weave move, which is by pressing R1, I can actually do another dodge, which gives me even more iframes. So like right here, I'm going boop, boop, wait. And another little caveat is that if you dodge in the same direction twice consecutively, it will not give you iframes. At least that's what it looks like when I do that like multiple times. You see how that one time I dodged forward and I didn't get the frames, but then it went again afterwards. That resets it. So, but the thing is, if I go bop, 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 boop, you see that? Every one of those in that little string that I just did, I'm getting the blur from the eye, which indicates iframes, which means while I'm close to somebody, it's gonna be really, really easy to just dodge a lot of their stuff. And obviously, you don't want to just do this forever because eventually they're gonna either catch on or you're gonna get clipped by something because it's not like you're fully non-stop invincible. There's like little windows between each movement. But all that being said, you can get through a lot of things, like a lot. And now you're probably wondering, if you've been playing for a while, there's already other counter mechanics and like stuff that helps. Why is this necessary? Here are a couple reasons. For starters, this game is incredible because you have literally like 6 ways to counter or defend against stuff, and it's constantly jumping between versions of that. For starters, most of those mechanics, except for the hardest one, which is called the super counter, most of those mechanics cost some kind of resource. So either you're using key if you're doing a bunch of Z counters, which is like that vanishing dodge. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't want to edit a super long video. But brain fart. Okay, so yeah, you'll use key on a Z counter, and even though you can kind of infinitely do it because you're always getting a little bit of key back right after you do it, you're never going to complete zero. It's still like after you finish that interaction, you have like nothing to work with, and now you have to charge back up, and it's like a whole thing. The other method is if you click R3, we're standard mode right now, clicking R3 will actually give you the revenge counter, which uses up 2 pieces of your skill meter, which takes a while to build up, and it's the one resource that you don't really have as much control over because you kind of either have to wait or deflect key blast. And then there's perfect perception. Wait. Oh yeah, perfect perception uses 2 skill count as well, and that will automatically activate on things that you can't use perception on normally, which is rush attacks. So if you didn't already know that, rush attacks are the only things that normal perception works for, whereas perfect perception, or super perception, excuse me, will not only do all charging attacks, all dashing attacks, all counter moves. So like if someone does a super counter on me, then I can use perfect perception, but it's going to be using up my bars. And I saw a video earlier today. I still got to like confirm this too. This game's very like deeply technical, and there's so much stuff that's not even mentioned that we're just going to have to find out as an audience. But sometimes I've recognized that perfect perception, if done right, or maybe it was like a skill boost or whatever, skill item, it doesn't actually take a full 2 bars. It looks like it takes like a bar and a half, or it just depletes you down to 0 if you have more than 1 bar. So that's a little caveat that also helps make it a bit more useful and not quite as like, you know, demanding. Granted, that still means you're going down to 0, but at least you don't have to have more than 2 to be able to use it. So pretty cool. I'm trying to think of another thing that I found. Oh, this is just like kind of fun, and it's not something I would recommend doing a lot. But if you start just spamming R1 and or L1 and L2, excuse me, while moving left and right and hitting X, you will also be able to dodge stuff that like is coming out close to you. And then if you mix in your key charge, so L2 or R2, wow, getting mixed up, you will start doing some crazy movement, and it can really throw people off, because I feel like where the meta is heading is, obviously, if you've been playing online at all, then you know that for ranges like D to C, that's when people really start using the Z dash, which is if you do R2 and then tap X and then tap X again at mid motion, you'll immediately basically go to their back like instantly, and it's very hard to react to unless you're kind of at like a pretty long distance. And this has been like the way people play up to this point because it's really easy to avoid, or excuse me, it's really easy to get in. And once you're at their back, if they're holding guard, they're just gonna get smacked anyway. So I just found out some new tech today that helped me, and I kind of learned some other stuff, but even more things you can do. So I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to talk through it, and you'll have to try it yourself, use your imagination, because I am not trying to do a whole video edit. But that being said, if someone comes at you with a Z dash, which is this move right here, and they're just at your back, what you can actually do on the defending side is you have a couple of options, actually 3. One, there's actually kind of more than 3, but that being said, they're in varying range of effectiveness, intent, and challenge. For starters, one that I find kind of easy sometimes is, notice how I'm moving and then immediately guarding right after. If I move while someone does, or after someone has done a Z dash, I'm actually going to face them. So if I tap forward now, even though Piccolo's over there and he shows up behind me, I will continue to move, and my chest will face him as he turns to what would have been my back, and then I can hold guard. What this does is, it's a little tough, because if you miss that window of by the time he's behind you, it's like a different moment, right? If you miss that window, then you're going to get smacked up. So that's one way that's defensive, and you can chain that into perception or a dodge or a couple of the other counters, or a Z counter or whatever. Another option is if someone does that, the what's it called, Z dash, you can actually dodge forward or move forward and then hit key blast. And what that does is, there's a small gap in window when they do a Z dash where they're just behind you for like literally a millisecond. It's like a very, very short window. But in that motion, while you move, they have to still hit an attack that pushes them forward. Because if I just do this neutral, right, I didn't press anything. I pressed no attack, therefore I just show up here. So it's not an automatic attack where there's like, So all that being said, the user, the attacker, has to input another attack after, and it can either be just a normal rush attack, or it can be a triangle, which is gonna like knock you back. All that being said, when somebody does that, there's a small window where if I, as the defender, am just moving back and then I hit triangle or my key blast, I'm actually going to knock them out of whatever attack they were intending to do, unless they literally jump behind me and start guarding, which isn't as practical until this becomes the meta, and then they know that I'm going to do a key blast, in which case they can deflect it right back at me point blank, and then I'm like getting smacked. Or if they have sparking up, then that's the key. Normal key blasts are going to deflect off of them anyway, so it kind of makes that a little obsolete in some cases. But it's also really easy, probably the easiest of all these to do. Another one is either neutral step. So if I'm close and they show up right behind me, right? A neutral step like that is going to give me iframes, and those iframes let me A, face my opponent, B, dodge whatever their first attack is, and C, it lets me act before they can act. That being said, depending on the frames of whatever my next decision is, if I try to do a rush attack but I'm still lined up with their attack, then we're gonna punch clash, and that could either activate the big punch clash where it does like the whole animation. I have to do the QTE, or we're just gonna, if you've played, then you know that like when two people are doing rush attacks at the same time, it kind of emulates what the show does, when it's like, and their hands and legs are all hitting each other and like attacking and blocking. All that being said, to get out of that moment, if it happens, you hit triangle, and that's going to now supersede a normal rush attack and then actually give you priority in that moment, because triangle's like a slightly stronger hit in a rush chain than a normal square. That being said, so that is three options to defend against a Z dash right there. What else? The other one that I'm trying to remember, what was it? There was three. Oh yeah, sidestep. So instead of a neutral step, you'll do a sidestep now instead. And what that does is, if you can sidestep them and time it well, and timing's a little looser because you actually go really far. That was one sidestep, and I'm literally already at his back. And if he's moving forward, I get iframes, and then we basically switch bases because he moves forward to where I was, and I'm at his back fully, and then I can just pop, 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 hit him with the rush attack. And if you've started to learn combos, I'm still kind of getting the hang of it, but you can get some crazy stuff going, like combos that I've played a few dudes that know how to really do it, and I couldn't even play the game. I literally just kept getting molly whopped. Whole team of like 3 or 4 absolutely destroyed by one Nappa. I was just like, what is even happening? This is crazy. But anyway, yeah, I'm just really hype on this game. I could probably keep going, and I might make more videos because of the excitement of learning new tech and like being on the cutting edge of a game that any Dragon Ball Z fan that remotely likes fighting games would be so hype about. But I think for now I might call it. Some other tech though that I've been practicing and I have yet to qualify if it's legit or not is so vanishing attacks, right? If you know how to initiate that. Is it called Oh, no. Instant transmission attack, excuse me. That's if you press X and square simultaneously. Input's kind of weird sometimes if you don't hit them exactly right time. One little trick I found too is if you hold square for a half second and then tap X, it actually makes it a little bit more likely to hit it properly, because the game, there's a millisecond delay from when you press X because it has to register as a charge or a normal. So I'm tapping, but I'm going to put it right next to the mic. If you hear that's the sound of me like pressing down the square button. And then when I release, it actually goes and activates the rush attack, because the game needs to know whether you're doing a rush attack or a charge attack. That's why charge takes a while. So that being said, if I hold it for a millisecond and then roll over the X button, it'll actually cue and let it know that like, oh, you're kind of trying to go for a instant transmission attack versus something else. You can't do it the other way because X will initiate your dash moves, and that immediately activates because it needs to be like really, really tight timing in like an actual match. But all that being said, some tech I'm trying to figure out and see if it would work well is when you do a vanishing attack or an instant transmission, excuse me, from far away, it's kind of lackluster. It just like teleports you forward, and there's been a few times you can't choose left, right, back, up, down. Like you can't do any of that. Like you see, I try to go up and then press it, but it literally like stops my vertical movement and just pushes me forward. One way this is annoying is because if you're trying to use it to dodge like an ultimate attack with a huge ki blast and you don't want to guard it, or you don't have the time necessarily like perfectly land a Z counter and like teleport out the way, or high speed movement, excuse me. Um, One thing I'm going to try to start doing is you do get iframes because you are basically off the map for that like little millisecond or whatever when you do the instant transmission move. But if you notice right after, there's like kind of in between, a little time in between. Wow, this is okay. I'm trying to do the move. Wow, and we are spazzing. Cool. What I'm trying to say, I'll just explain it as I struggle. There's a little delay between when your arms go up for your guard and when you start the instant transmission attack from far. So right there, boom, I transmissioned right, and then I land, and then my arms go up. What I believe would happen, and I still have to like, it's kind of hard to lab some of this stuff because it's really specific, and the computer can do a lot. It's really impressive, but there's still like, I wish I could just say, do this move over and over, you know, but that's neither here nor there. I believe that in the little window between when I started the instant transmission and it ends, and then I go into a guard, you can actually trigger a high speed movement, which is a just frame guard that perfectly will dodge stuff. So in my head, and this could be wrong, and I'm still going to try it out and confirm it later, but you can actually increase, essentially you're increasing the window in which you can perfectly dodge and avoid like huge attacks, which if you also have done it in like actual practical moments, if someone does an ultimate attack and you can high speed movement and avoid it, not only did they just blast all of their sparking energy out and they're just like sitting there, the window that it takes for them to recover from that move is huge. In like the timing of this game, it's like massive. So a lot of times what you don't want to do is dash straight towards them. You want to actually kind of get around them. So it's really good to do one of those, a Z dash. But you got to be careful on the angle, because if you Z dash from the wrong side, you'll just cross into the path of the ultimate anyway and get hit for full damage, because most ultimates do cutscene, and the cutscene will give you the full damage pretty much. But all that being said, yeah, this game's incredible. Not Xenoverse, was Budokai Tenkaichi 3 was like an amazing game, but it kind of lacked in the sense that not a lot of people could play it online, and then modders made 4, but that was like an old game, old engine, it was PC, blah blah blah. But this is just like magic. I'm going to be playing this game for a long time. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate anyone who's made it this far, and who knows, if the response is cool, I might make some more videos, just because I think this is really dope. And I'm gonna be playing anyway, so I might as well nerd out about it with other nerds on in the world. Anyway, Rockstar Gaming signing out. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.